Welcome back to another episode of the Shout at the Devils podcast. I'm Daniel Amoia. I run Devils Report on Instagram as well as write for the Hockey Writers. I'm here alongside Justin Brady, who runs Devils Fanatics on Instagram. And we've known for a little bit now that the New Jersey Devils will be matching up with the Carolina Hurricanes in round one of the Stanley Cup Playoffs. According to most betting sites, the Devils are the biggest underdog of any playoff series that is currently set. But with that being said, we've seen that plenty of times in sports, and that doesn't always translate to what actually happens. So we're going to break that all down and see what the Devils have to do in order to give themselves the best shot to succeed. Obviously, without Jack Hughes, without Jonas Siegenthaler, big thing that Dougie Hamilton is expected to be ready for game one. So there's a lot to dissect. Justin, when you saw this matchup, what were your initial thoughts?
I'm getting deja vu, and not a good form of deja vu, because historically, Carolina owns the Devils in the playoffs, and just in general, over the past few years now, the Devils have struggled quite a lot against the Hurricanes. The Hurricanes have a really strong forecheck, are physical. They'll bring it to you every single night, and sometimes the Devils are not able to match that, but this team is much more compatible to be able to match Carolina's forecheck physicality. We look back at the 2023 second round series between the two teams. The Devils' downfall was that they were just getting outmatched, outplayed. They just weren't tough enough, and they weren't winning puck battles. They were getting just tossed around everywhere. Carolina was manhandling them. And that's why I feel a little optimistic right now that this Devils team can put up a good fight against this Hurricanes team. It's going to be really tough, and all the odds point to that the Devils are going to lose this series. But as you mentioned, crazier things have happened in sports, and all it takes is for the Devils to win games 1 or games 2 in Raleigh, and they have the advantage from there on. So I'm excited for it. Obviously cautiously optimistic about it because look, it is Carolina. And yes, as I mentioned, like we talk about that 2009 first round series where Eric Stahl scored the 2 goals late in the third period to win game 7 for Carolina. That was a haunting memory for all Devils fans. And yeah, the Devils haven't been able to win in the Hurricanes barn since January of 2023. So it's been a minute, but if they could find somehow a way to win games 1 or games 2, they have a chance to win this series.
Yeah, I think so. It's just a matter of execution because we could break down anything, but if they don't go out on the ice and execute, it doesn't matter. So I don't even think it's the toughness part that plays as much of a role as much as it is just the hard work and the forechecking. And like you look at a Rod Brindamore team in Carolina who they're never like star-studded on paper. I mean, but they just have those pieces who all mesh together and work well and buy into the system and are just relentless to play against. So it's not going to be an easy thing. The Devils outscored the Hurricanes 13-12, split the games 2-2 in the season series, but that was with Jack Hughes, who had 6 points in those 4 games. So, I mean, 6 of their 13 goals, direct factor of Jack Hughes, and I would bet he was on the ice for probably a couple more of those too, even though he didn't factor in on the score sheet. So it's a tough loss, no question about it. But the Devils got to overcome. You can't make excuses. It's playoff time, and we've seen plenty of times in all sports teams overcome injuries to their star players and perform in the playoffs. So again, goes back to the word execution. They just got to get it done. When I look at this series, the biggest key for me is special teams play because I mean, Sheldon Keefe said it a few weeks ago, special teams are the Devil's baby. And they are, I think, second in power play, third in penalty kill, or the other way around. That's phenomenal. But Carolina's penalty kill is first in the league. But their power play is, I think, like 22nd in the league. Not very good. So the Devils, if you're looking at purely even strength, all the numbers, Carolina is the far more superior team at even strength. There's no question. They create 3 more scoring chances per 60 minutes at even strength than any other team in the National Hockey League. And the Devils on their own, I think, are in goals for at even strength. They're something like 26th in the league. So it's not even close. But that's where special teams comes into play. The Devils have to be on the ball. I think even if the Devils have a slight advantage in terms of special teams play, the advantage overall still goes to Carolina. The Devils need to completely dominate that, and they can. Like I said, the Hurricanes' power play hasn't been great. The Devils' penalty kill is great and has been lately as well. So it's not just a previous thing before Siegenthaler went out. They've been great after Dumoulin stepped into that role. The Devils' power play has been great since April 1st, 33.3%. And Carolina Hurricanes, even though they're first in the league in penalty kill percentage, since April 1st, they've struggled a bit. They've been bottom of the pack. And as a team, they've struggled as well overall, losing to some teams, some non playoff teams. So that's where the Devils just really need to keep their foot on the gas. Power play has to convert. It's going to be very interesting to me, assuming that Dougie is back, whether they're going to put him on PP1 or keep Luke there. But either way, that's just something they have to do because, like I said, even strength is not going to be the Devils' friend. They need to be moving their feet, drawing penalties, and then converting on those power plays. And then we've seen at times, for as great as the Devils' penalty kill is, every once in a while they'll have that game, which is normal in the NHL, where they give up 2 power play goals in a game. And with how dominant Carolina is at even strength, you can't afford that. They need to be on the very top of their game, and they're certainly capable of doing it. But again, I'm going to say probably for the 8th time now, execution, because they need to be dominating that special teams battle. Otherwise, I don't think they have a shot if they're not. I look back to the series 2 years ago. The teams were dead even. I think they had a 13.7 power play percentage and 86%, something like that, on the penalty kill. And Carolina basically scored double the goals that the Devils had. So even if they're even on the special teams battle, Carolina's winning.
The 5-on-5 play is what really scares me about this series because the Devils have not been a good 5-on-5 team at all this season at all. And we look back, like, look at the New York Rangers, for example, the last few years now. The reason they can't get over that hump is because they rely on their power play and special teams so much where it just holds them back and their 5-on-5 play is not good enough. So, look, yes, the Devils are going to have to take advantage when they get their power play opportunities, have to be strong in the penalty kill, but they're going to have to try their best to keep up with Carolina's 5-on-5 play. It's a lot to ask because Carolina is a tough team to play 5-on-5, but the Devils are just going to have to find a way to do so if they want any chance to win this series. But my main key for the Devils to win this series is their goaltending. And right now, Jacob Markstrom's your most likely, he's going to be your game one starter, and he has a lot of experience. It's not like what we were getting with the Kira Schmidt or Vitek Vanecek 2 years ago. Those guys had very little, barely any playoff experience alone. But Markstrom, 26 games he's played in the playoffs, 2.9 goals against average, and a 911 save percentage. That's pretty good. And then look, if you have to resort to Jake Allen at some point in the series, I trust him as well. He's shown that he can put up great numbers in the playoffs. 924 save percentage, 2.06 goals against average. Yes, I know a lot of that was from the late 2010s, but know what? Allen has proven himself this year as a reliable option for the Devils. So it's good that if something bad happens to Markstrom, God forbid, or he has a really bad first 2 games, they could rely on Allen as an option for game 3, game 4 if they really need him to. So I like that they have 2 goaltenders, 2 strong goaltenders there. And another thing that plays in the factor that the Devils didn't have 2 years ago is a lot of experience. They got guys like Stefan Noesen and Brett Pesce, and that plays huge into their favor. Going against their former team, they have to have some insight of what players like to do, their tendencies, and that's definitely going to help the Devils in their favor. They have other former players like Eric Holla, Dougie Hamilton. So 4 ex-Canes right there. And those 4 guys were winning a lot in Carolina in the playoffs. So they're definitely going to bring that with the Devils. And you have Andre Palat, 150 career playoff games. Once it's playoff time, Palat shines the brightest. So hopefully he did leave yesterday's game against Boston. And hopefully it's nothing too serious. I think it's just precautionary as of now, but hopefully he's ready for game 1. You have Brendan Dillon, 83 games, Brian Dumoulin, 81 games, and then Hala, Dougie Hamilton all up there as well. So you have a lot more experience than this team did 2 years ago, and I think that will definitely help them just not have as much nerves. We saw last 2 years ago where games 1 and games 2, they just weren't a good team in both series against the Rangers and Carolina and they were very jittery, didn't know the type of identity that they wanted to play, the type of hockey they wanted to play, and it took them a while to figure it out. And hopefully game one, they're just firing on all cylinders and giving Carolina a run for their money. I think experience will play a huge role in this. And it's good to have those veterans and those secondary pieces outside your Nico Heishers, your Jesper Bratz, your Timo Myers. Guys need to step up in the playoffs. You need your Palats, you need your Halas. Hopefully Pesci, Dougie Hamilton could chip in as well. And yeah, it's just gonna be a complete team effort. It's not a one-man show come playoff time. Those guys are gonna need to step up like they did 2 years ago. So I'm excited for it. But yeah, experience is gonna play a factor in the series. And the Devils, I'm not gonna say they have the advantage over Carolina because they have a lot of guys who have a lot of playoff experience on that team. But I feel much more comfortable where the Devils are going into the playoffs or against a series against Carolina experience-wise compared to 2 years ago.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, obviously, Carolina's a team that's kind of built for the playoffs, but they don't have those like superstar scorers. I would argue the Devils' top scorers are more capable. I mean, you're looking at Sebastian Aho's great. Andrei Svechnikov has like 47 points this season. Like, that's not anything that crazy. So it's just those depth guys who kill you, guys like Seth Jarvis, Jackson Blake. I mean, really, you look down that entire lineup, everyone can chip in, where the Devils are probably a little more top heavy, at least this season. So those top guys for the Devils have to show out. Timo Meyer, Jesper Bratt. They're gonna really be relied on and be getting a bulk of the minutes. And then you mentioned Dougie Hamilton. The Devils better hope if he's coming back that he's a truly healthy Dougie Hamilton, because we saw Hamilton 2 years back play against Carolina playing through an injury, and the results were not pretty. He had just 1 point in those 5 games, and he was a -10. So obviously, if that's the case, they'd probably be better not playing him at all. But I feel like the Devils are pretty good in terms of the evaluation process. They're not going to put him out there unless they feel he's truly ready. At least I would think. So that's just a huge thing if they get Hamilton back, because if you look at even strength, the Devils are by far a much better team. I believe with Hamilton, when Hamilton is healthy in the lineup this season, the Devils are outscoring teams by 13 at even strength. When they're not, when Hamilton is not in the lineup, they're getting outscored by like 14. So it's not even close. Basically, tale of two stories. And they're basically dead even in chances when Hamilton's not in the lineup, but when Hamilton is in the lineup, they are outchancing the opposition by 93 at even strength. So it's kind of obviously defense is at Hamilton's strong suit, but when you're constantly controlling play in the offensive zone, you don't need to play defense. And obviously it's not going to be easy against a Hurricanes team. I'm not saying the Devils are going to be outchancing them by a ton, because that just doesn't happen against Carolina. They're a puck possession team. They're dominant at even strength, but it brings it a little closer to being more even at even strength, which then gives the Devils a chance to win the special teams battle and possibly get a few lucky bounces here and there at even strength and maybe win a series. So it's not going to be perfect. Look, I think if the Devils are winning this series, unless Carolina just for some reason completely falls apart, I mean, they have not looked great to end this regular season, but neither have the Devils, so I'm not putting any stock into that. But the Devils would have to do it in six, probably 7 games. This isn't even if the Devils are playing their best hockey where they could sweep them or win in 5 games, Carolina's just too good of a team for that. They're coached too well. So it's just kind of all these elements that we're talking about have to go perfect, because the Devils without Jack Hughes are really just going to have to be on the top of every facet of their game. Like if you look at the Rangers series where the Devils came back, the Devils really weren't on top of their game for some portions of that series, but they were able to get by because the Rangers faltered. The Devils had stifling defense. That's not going to happen against Carolina. Carolina is a much tougher opponent just in terms of their style. So, yeah, the Devils just really need everything to go basically perfectly if they want that shot. But hey, it's definitely a shot. It's not an insane long shot. I mean, we've seen way crazier things. Like we said, Money Puck gives them, I think, a 42% chance to win the series, which, I mean, that's fairly close to even. And I think a lot of that has to do with Carolina's struggles recently. But look, anything can happen. They just got to go perform.
Yeah, the thing is, like, I feel like we both know that once playoff time comes, Carolina will flip the switch just like that.
I
Can the
think so.
Devils do that? That's the thing. And people are gonna be like, "Oh, the Devils are not trying as much or trying to play less risky." I just don't think they're playing good hockey right now. I don't see much intensity from the team right now. Even we talk about that Boston game, like that game mattered and they got destroyed. I'm just hoping, and I think it will. Once playoff time comes, I need that intensity from the Devils because they need that against a team like Carolina. They need to be able to match them hit for hit, forecheck, back check, all the little things that matter the most in a game, face-offs, like the little things. The Devils are gonna have to win those board battles. Like they're gonna have to do the little things right if they want to win against a team like Carolina, who is just a complete, like, for the most part, a complete team. They don't have the superstars, as you mentioned. Like, they just rally off each other. They all chip in. Not one guy is a liability. And that's another thing that worries about me with the Devils. Their bottom six is just, and we talked about it all year. It's just like a roulette at this point, like who plays. Like it's just, oh, Tatar's gonna play one game, then Lazar, Bash, and like these guys are all getting shuffled in the lineup, and every single time they get a chance to play, they're just not doing anything to really help the team. And that worries me because you need all four lines to chip in come playoff time. We saw the Devils in their 2012 run, all four lines were consistently chipping in, producing offensively, helping on the penalty kill. Like in this team, like the Devils team right now, like they just haven't been able to do that consistently this year. Maybe for like the first like 20 games or so. And then outside of that, like they just haven't been able to do that. So that's why like it worries me because I Nico Heischer, Jesper Bratt, Timo Meyer, we look at back in 2023, those guys just weren't good enough come playoff time offensively. Timo Meyer really didn't come alive. I know like he made a big impact in that Rangers series with his brutality and physicality. I see like he had a big impact there, but offensive wise, he didn't do much until the second round. Jesper Bratt, a lot of people were calling him out and questioning, oh, should we extend him? Obviously, that was a dumb question to bring up, but like he needs to step up. Nico needs to step up. Nico hasn't had that much success come playoff time. I want to see these guys, the way they're playing right now. They're playing, those three guys are playing some phenomenal hockey right now and stepping up for the Devils. I want that to continue in the playoffs. The Devils are going to need it because I don't think they're going to get much help from their bottom six. And hopefully you get those contributions from guys like Mercer, Palat, and Hala. Hopefully those guys can chip in. Maybe Cody Glass as well. But outside of that, there's like 5 or 6 guys that are just basically liabilities out there right now for the team. And it's a shame. So it puts a lot of pressure on your top guys to produce.
Yeah, you mentioned the bottom six. I wouldn't even say it's that they're not helping the team in any way, but they're not helping the team offensively.
Yeah.
They have so many guys in that bottom six who are great defensively, but it doesn't matter if your offense is even less than you're stifling the other team. Carolina, even against a great defensive team, is going to find ways to get that depth scoring, and the Devils, on paper, it doesn't look like they could replicate that at even strength. So that's where the struggle lies. That goes back to the special teams point that they need to dominate that battle. But again, anything could happen. Guys like Andre Palat, Eric Halla, Dawson Mercer were all huge contributors to the Devils coming back from down 2-0 2 years ago against the Rangers. So they've done it before. Will they rise to the occasion? That's the question. And obviously, yeah, the top guys have to perform. There's no question about that, especially with Jack out. Especially Bratt and Timo. I mean, he sure I think will be fine, but Bratt and Timo are more of a question mark just in terms of how that play will translate. Meyer has had playoff success in the past. Bratt has really only had one real playoffs. I mean, he was sprinkled in 2018, but I don't really count that. And then you also mentioned the intensity of the games. I'm not worried about it for 2 reasons. Number one, anytime that the Devils have needed to get up for a big game this season, you look at the Rangers game. They have. That Rangers game, I mean, and granted, obviously the Rangers are a shell of what they used to be right now, but it was clear that that intensity was needed from puck drop and they matched it. And I think after that, yes, you can say that the Boston game where they got blown out technically mattered, but there were like 5, 6 games left and they needed a point. They knew they were making the playoffs. And I think at that point, it just from a human being perspective, it's so hard to gear yourself up when the main objective is don't get hurt. Like the result really doesn't matter. It's kind of like preseason at the end of the day. So yes, you'd like to see that intensity, but to also further that point, Carolina has been worse than the Devils in this recent stretch. The Washington Capitals have not been a good team. There was a point that they gave up like 20 something goals in 5 games. They really, really, really have struggled. And these are top teams in the league, teams better than the Devils, at least on paper. So when you see that and you see that other teams are doing it as well, not just the Devils, it leads me to believe that the intensity part isn't an issue. Now, I think some people are going to come back and say the Devils lose 4-2 in game one and simply just the depth scoring is what propels Carolina. There are people who are going to say, oh, the Devils didn't match the intensity. They weren't ready. But I really don't think that'll be the case. I think if the Devils are losing in these playoffs, it's because they were just outmatched by a team that's whose system is built for playoff hockey. They're without Jack Hughes. I don't think it's an intensity thing because, like I said, when they've needed to match that intensity in the truly important games, they've matched it. And we've seen even at times, like in these recent games where the Devils have struggled, they matched that intensity to start and they're out shooting a team 7-8 to 1 in the first half of the first period. And then the fatigue kind of sets in and it's almost like whether we win this game or not, it doesn't really mean anything. Why are we going to risk getting hurt? And to say that that thought doesn't cross their minds would just be straight up incorrect. No matter how much they're getting paid, no matter how big of a competitor they are, they're human beings, and the ultimate goal is to get to playoffs. And even all the post game interviews, you see the players saying, "Oh, we're just focused on playoffs. We're just focused on playoffs," and they should be because the regular season result doesn't matter once you're in. So it's unfortunate that they've gotten these results, but those two things, especially just the fact that it's happening to other teams, it's happening to the Caps who were in the running for the President's Trophy. The Hurricanes at one point were like 1-4-1 in their last six. I mean, that's bottom of the barrel hockey, and those are good teams. So I'm not putting any concern into that. I know a lot of people are, but like I said, if they're losing this series, it's because they're just overmatched, not because of intensity.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, and we've seen that and when the 2 teams have played each other this season, the Devils have brought the intensity to Carolina. Those 2 games back in December where it was like a back-to-back home and home, those games were very hostile, very intense. Things got very nasty, chippy, and I'm expecting the same. Obviously, it's not the 2 same exact teams as we saw back then, but this is a big rivalry now. It's a up and coming one. And these 2 teams just don't like each other at all, and it's gonna show come game 1, and, a big thing I'm gonna before we get into our series predictions, I just wanna add, the Devils win every home game, they just have to win, and I know that's a lot to ask for, but, like, it's nearly impossible to win in Carolina. Carolina has been ranked the 2nd hardest arena to play in the NHL, and this season, Carolina is 31-9-1. That's amazing. They're winning basically 3 out of 4 games at home. It's a hard thing to do to win in Carolina, and as I mentioned before, the Devils have not had success in their barn. So if they are able to win one, like they have a real chance to win this series as long as they win all their home games. And it puts a lot of pressure at them for the Devils at home. But look, they beat Carolina both times at the Prudential Center this year, which leads me to believe they have a chance. And Carolina is not a good road team. They are 16-9-4 on the road. So it's kind of like a whole 180 there. They're really strong at home, but on the road, they're just not the same team. So look, I keep on saying it. If the Devils could take games 1 or games 2, they have a chance in this series. And then another last thing, um, don't fall behind in these games early because once Carolina gets that first goal of the game and you're down 1-0, it's hard to come back because Carolina is a team that really is able to rally off momentum and they just feed off each other. One goal turns into 2 goals, turns into 3 goals. We saw that in 2023 in games 1 and games 2 in Carolina. Carolina won both those games like 5-1. And once they got that first goal, it just kept on piling on. So the Devils, if they do get behind 1-0, they're gonna have to find a way to stop the bleeding or answer back. So that's it's gonna be interesting. So yeah, that was the last thing I was gonna say. So they have a tough battle ahead of them. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's where their veteran experience comes to play. I think the Devils are much more suited to not let that flurry of goals happen if Carolina starts that. But we won't truly know until we see it on the ice. The Devils, you mentioned the home play. The Devils have not been a great team at home themselves this season. They're going to finish under 500 right now. I believe they're 2 games under 500 in their own barn. And like you said, Canes are just too good on the road. So that can't happen. The Devils ideally need to steal one of the first two in Carolina and then set themselves up better for home where the arena is obviously going to be rocking playoff atmosphere. And I think they'll meet that intensity, but we just have to see the results. As for a series prediction, I'm going to say right now, Hurricanes in 6. I think the Devils are going to give them a good run for their money. And I think it's going to be closer than that Hurricanes in 6 makes it appear. Maybe 2-2, and then Carolina pulls ahead. But I just think on paper, Carolina is just better suited for this series. And if the Devils aren't getting depth scoring, which they haven't gotten for most of the season consistently, it's just very hard. The only thing that could make a difference is if, say, Kochetkov for Carolina is their starter, and he's a guy who could get rattled at times and just completely implode. The Devils could maybe get off to a quick start there, and Carolina could dig too deep of a hole for themselves. And that's the thing. If you're the Devils, if you, say, win one of the first two or two of the first three, sometimes there's just bounces. Like you could get outplayed and still win a series. So you need to give yourself that early cushion because all it takes is a couple weird bounces, and for all you know, you're going on to round two. We've seen crazier upsets. Carolina is still going to have to be ready for this because the Devils can catch them by surprise if they're not. I think they will be. I don't think that's a question with a Rod team, but it's not entirely out of the equation. So yeah, Hurricanes in 6 would be my final prediction.
I have the same prediction as you. Carolina in 6. They're just a much more well-rounded team compared to the Devils, and I think the Devils will steal a couple games because of their goaltending. I think Markstrom rises to the occasion, and then just the other games that they lose, they're just not able to score enough and keep up with Carolina, unfortunately. So I think that's what's going to come back to haunt them at the end of the day. I do think the Devils will steal a game in Carolina. I think they'll steal games 1 or games 2. And you know what? If you do that, I mean, they have a chance, obviously, but I think Carolina will get settled in real fast in the series and find a way to grease this one out. It's definitely not going to be an easy one. The Devils, no one, how do I say this? Like, they're not getting enough credit right now. I think they are a very underrated team. They still have some talented players. They have a very good defensive core, especially if you get Dougie Hamilton back. They have 2 reliable goaltenders. They have a chance. And defense and goaltending win you championships. And that's going to be the Devils' bread and butter that they're going to need to rise to the occasion if they're going to win this series. But I think their lack of goal scoring is going to hold them back a lot, and they're not going to be able to win it. So I have Canes in 6.
Yeah, obviously there's a reason the games need to be played though, so we will have all your coverage here. It's going to be very interesting to see how it shakes out because I would not count the Devils out. I don't think it's likely, but I don't think it's as much of a sure decision as some are making it out to be. We saw a few years back, I always use this example when Tampa Bay was playing Columbus and people were like, this is the easiest sweep for Tampa Bay of all time. Columbus is lucky if they win one game. And Tampa Bay just simply underestimated them and ended up getting swept. So those type of things happen with momentum. Momentum is a real thing. I don't care what anyone says. And it could certainly come into play. So I think that also goes into a quick another point that we mentioned last episode that the Devils being underdogs helps them because the pressure is not on them. All the pressure is on Carolina. They just need to go out there and play. And if they lose, it's like, well, we were expected to. We were without our star player, so whatever. Whereas if Carolina loses, there's some real pressure on them, especially given their past history in the playoffs where they just aren't able to get to that Stanley Cup final. They'll win a round or two and just not go much further. It's going to be very interesting to see how it shakes out. We appreciate you all listening. We're going to have your coverage and episode after every single game of the entire Stanley Cup playoffs. We'll see if that's 4 or whether that's 20 something. Who knows? But regardless, stay tuned. We appreciate all your support and we'll catch you on the next episode. Peace out.